Hey guys, Draction here with another boss guide to the Sirensong Sea Dungeon. The first boss is Lugat. Just engage as normal. After a moment, he will go right into his first mechanic. He will face in the direction of a random party member and start casting Amorphous Applause, which will cover half the room with an AoE, just run out and avoid. But the easiest thing to do is stay close to the boss so you don't have to run as far to avoid the hit. After a couple seconds later, he'll cast Hydro Ball on a party member, which will put a target on said player, which after a few moments will drop an AoE, which needs to be soaked by multiple players. So sticking near the boss will also help with this mechanic since everyone will need to stack. At this point you'll have a small window of DPS. After, he will go into the middle of the room and quickly cast Sea Swallows All, which will pull everyone in the middle of the room. Then immediately go into a move called Concussive Oscillation, which will put 5 large round ground AoEs, which everyone will need to avoid by moving clear the areas. Then he'll immediately go into another Amorphous Applause, just avoid and continue to DPS. You will have a window of time before another Amorphous Applause, so DPS hard. Again, get ready to avoid that second Amorphous Applause. After that, the boss will use a mechanic called Overflow, which will push everyone away to the outer circle, and then he'll immediately go into Hydro Ball, so everyone will need to run to the middle and stack to split the damage. Right after the Hydro Ball, he will go into another Amorphous Applause. Since everyone is stacked, it's easily avoidable. This will be probably the largest window DPS time, so go hard, and after he will go into another Amorphous Applause. Here comes an Amorphous Applause. Then, after a few moments, he will go into another Sea Swallows All, which will suck everyone in, then do a Concussive Oscillation again. But this time there will be more large round AoEs and less free space to run, so be aware. Then right into another Amorphous Applause. At this point you should be able to DPS the boss down with maybe another applause, but most likely a kill. And that's it, the first boss. Alright, boss number 2. The second boss is the Governor. Although an easy boss, he has some mechanics that can quickly kill the party if not dealt right. First, engage the boss, DPS is normal. After a few moments, the boss will walk into the middle of the room and start casting Shadow Flow. Once casted, he will submerge half his body in the ground and spread darkness on the ground. Avoid these areas and stand on clear ground. If not, you will get a stacking debuff of darkness that will increase all damage taken from the boss. After a moment, he will draw in all the darkness areas and come back out of the ground and walk towards the tank. After that, he will go into Bloodburst, which is a full AoE hit to all the party members and will do increased damage to the people who stood in the dark floor and got extra stacks. Shortly after that, he'll use a mechanic called Enter the Night. It will target one person with a red icon above their head, and he will shout towards them and darkness will link them, which will start increasing your darkness debuffs on that affected party member. To deal with this mechanic, simply walk to the edge of the room and the darkness tether will fall off. If done correctly, no debuffs will be added to you. Right after that, he will use Bloodburst again. Right after that, he will use Shadow Split, which will make copies of himself around him. Then he will go right into another Shadow Flow, but this time instead of having just large areas of affected ground, the copies of himself will walk out and take more of the free ground away from the party, so be aware. After a short moment, all the darkness and copies will disappear and the ground will go back to normal. But be ready because the boss will go into another AoE Bloodburst. Here is another window of DPS, so go hard. Then the boss will use Enter of the Night again on a random party member. Just run back to the wall to avoid getting any more darkness debuffs. Right after, he will use Bloodburst again, doing AoE damage to everyone and extra damage to people who took too many stacks. After, he will do Shadow Split again, followed by another Shadow Flow. Just find an open spot and wait for the darkness to disappear. After all the darkness has disappeared, he will go into another Bloodburst. He will use Enter the Night one more time. Just quickly run to the wall and get back. There is one more Bloodburst, but the fight's pretty much over. Congrats, you got the second boss down. Okay, this isn't the last boss, but the last mob before the last boss who can be tricky for people who don't know what he does. It's the Fleshless Captive. The biggest thing you need to know is to interrupt Seductive Scream. If not, everyone will be CC'd and will walk towards him. Then he will cast Flood and do large amounts of AoE damage. If you did interrupt him, he will still use Fludge, but you can just walk out of it. Easy. Alright, this is the last boss, Lorelei. Engage the boss as normal. Soon after, she will use Virgin Tears, which will put large AoE pools on the ground and will stay for a period of time. After a short moment, she will use Morbid Advance, which, after she casts, it will force all members of the party to walk in the direction your character is facing physically. So position yourself on a track where you will not hit a tier left on the ground. The tiers will eventually disappear, but she will use the mechanic again and place them in a new area and more will spawn. Then she will use Morbid Events again, which will force your character to walk, so position again to not hit a tier puddle. Then she'll use Somber Melodies, which will do an AoE damage to the party and the tier pools will disappear again. She will use Virgin Tears again and place the same amount of puddles as last time, but this time, instead of using Morbid Advance, she will cast Morbid Retreat, which will force you to walk in the opposite direction your character is facing. So position yourself to not walk into a tier. Shortly after, the tiers will disappear again. Shortly after that, she'll use Virgin Tears again, but this time there will be more puddles and the outer ring will be filled as well, leaving not much open space. Then she'll use Morbid Retreat again, so make sure you face looking out at the edge of the room as far as possible. Also line yourself up so that when you do start running backwards, you have enough space that you don't run into a tier. Right as the run expires, she will use Void Water on a random party member. Just a large AoE move, it's easy to walk out of. After the Void Water, all the tiers will disappear and she will use another Somber Melody. Then, she'll use Void Water again. Then get ready for another Virgin Tears, which will be set up in the same manner as the last, but she will flip the moves and cast Morbid Advanced instead of Retreat. As the run expires, the boss will use Void Water again, just walk out and avoid. The tiers will disappear and she'll use Somber Melody one more time. After that Somber Melody has been cast, there is a large window of DPS, so go hard, burn this boss down. she's going to use another Void Water. After this Void Water, there's a large window of DPS, so now's a good time to use Limit Break and finish the boss off. We just finished the boss as another rotation of tears came up, so at this point you shouldn't be worried, she should be able to DPS the boss until she's dead. And that's it, guys. All 3 bosses complete. I hope you enjoyed my second video, and I will hopefully have another one up before Saturday. Leave a comment down below and tell me what dungeon you want to see next. Thanks, and have a good night.